TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations.
Shalom, Erev Tov, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. Israel strikes at the Houthis in Yemen as the Iranian-proxy continues to launch near daily ballistic missiles at Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu asserts Jerusalem's resolve to decisively defeat Hamas. Tens of thousands of Israelis flood the streets of Israeli cities, calling on the government to end the war. Iran's continued attacks on Israel by means of its proxy in Yemen will not go unanswered. Jerusalem regards the Ayatollah regime in Tehran, which directs and equips its proxies to attack Israeli territory, no less responsible for the continued belligerence than the proxy which pulls the trigger. However, while Israel maintains the right to respond to the near-daily attacks at a time and place of its choosing, Iran's Yemeni proxy Ansar Allah, which is dominated by the Houthi tribe, is evidently facing escalatory pressure, with the latest including a devastating Israeli naval attack against energy infrastructure near Yemen's capital Sana'a, which provides electricity to strategic installations belonging to the Houthis.
We were attacked today at 4 a.m. by two aggressive airstrikes from the Israeli enemy, which led to the destruction of the station. This was because of our stance in solidarity with Gaza and the children of Gaza. Allah willing, we will not abandon the cause no matter what they do. And Allah willing, we will continue on this path, even if it costs us our lives entirely.
It is important to know that over the past week, including yesterday afternoon, the Houthis launched several ballistic missiles toward Israeli territory, which, according to the terror group spokesman Yahya Sarriah, it aimed to strike at Ben Gurion International Airport. Thankfully, Israel's aerial defense array, in close cooperation with U.S. Central Command, has managed to intercept all of the incoming projectiles. Nevertheless, Israeli retaliatory strikes against strategic Houthi infrastructure has severely crippled Yemen, with the United Nations urging the Iranian proxy to end its belligerent practices. It is important to highlight that the United Nations Security Council held a meeting on Yemen, during the course of which the UN Secretary General's envoy to Yemen, Hans Grunberg, highlighted that the continued Houthi attacks against Israel have led to the near-complete destruction of Yemen's West Coast port facilities.
For Yemen to have a real chance for peace, it must be protected from being further drawn into the ongoing regional turmoil emanating out of the war in Gaza. Therefore, the strikes against civilian ships in the Red Sea must cease. The missile attacks against Israel and the subsequent Israeli strikes on Yemen must also come to an end. Beyond complicating the mediation space for a long-term settlement of the conflict in Yemen, this escalation has led to the near destruction of Yemen's West Coast port facilities. This is placing immense strain on Yemen's vital infrastructure.
In contrast to envoy Grunberg, who sought to avoid laying full blame on the Iranian proxy for Yemen's state of affairs, the Yemeni ambassador to the world body insisted that the Houthis are deliberately obstructing all efforts to reach a political solution to Yemen's domestic woes.
Yemen today is at the threshold of a difficult era. After 11 years of war waged by the terrorist Houthi militias against the country, the state and its constitutional bodies, a war that has destroyed the hopes and aspirations of a people that aspire for security, stability, and dignity, justice, and equality. A people that strives to build a civil state befitting of their glorious history and their status in the region. The Presidential Leadership Council and the Yemeni government are exerting efforts to push forth the peace process and to positively deal with international and regional efforts and with the United Nations efforts through its special envoy to Yemen to put an end to this conflict. However, the Houthi militias continue to obstruct all of these efforts and undermine any chances for peace.
وتقويض أي فرص للسلام.
Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the separate fronts which Israel is forced to engage in.
In the last 24 hours, the Navy attacked power stations in Yemen, and IDF soldiers attacked Zaytun and eliminated dozens of terrorists in the Gaza Strip. The Air Force attacked senior Hezbollah terrorists and launchers in Lebanon.
Netanyahu continued by asserting that Israeli strikes on Hezbollah in Lebanon are completely in line with the armistice that was implemented on November 27 of last year, amid claims by Lebanese authorities that Israel was violating the ceasefire.
I would like to emphasize, our activity in Lebanon is in accordance with the ceasefire agreement. According to this agreement, we are enforcing, with live fire, any violation and any attempt to rearm by Hezbollah.
It is important to know that U.S. Special Envoy to Lebanon and Syria, Tom Barrack, who also serves as ambassador to Turkey, met with Lebanon's President Joseph Aoun early this morning, after which he claimed that both sides had violated the ceasefire and that no new agreement was reached between Jerusalem and Washington.
There has been no American proposal to Israel. They have not negated anything. What we've been doing is discussing, first of all, with the Lebanese government what their position is. We're in the process of now discussing with Israel what their position is. So there's no violation other than the violations that have continued since the November 2024 agreement of cessation of hostilities, in which each party is saying it's the other one. So what we're trying to do is to solve an agreement that already has been violated. We don't have a new agreement, and our intent is not to create a new agreement that's going to be violated.
The American envoy, whose rhetoric has been increasingly hostile towards Israel, continued by claiming that the Lebanese government, which instructed its military to come up with a plan to disarm Hezbollah, made the first move, and that now he expects Israel to reciprocate without giving any details of what that actually means.
I mean, there's always a step-by-step approach, but I think the Lebanese government has done their part. They've taken the first step. Now what we need is Israel to comply with that equal handshake.
Returning to Jerusalem, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also addressed the latest vis-à-vis the Gaza Strip.
Our ongoing security control in the Strip is only one of our conditions for concluding the war, conditions that Hamas is refusing to accept. We insist that not only must Hamas be disarmed, but also that Israel will enforce the demilitarization of the Strip over time by continuous action against any attempt at rearmament and reorganization by any terrorist element whatsoever. Hamas is demanding the complete opposite. It wants us to completely leave the entire Strip, from north to south, including the Philadelphia corridor that prevents smuggling and the security perimeter that protects our communities. This way, it would be able to reorganize, rearm, and attack us again. Hamas would again be able to come in its pickup trucks and with its monstrous murderers up to the fence and threaten Nir Oz, Kisifim, and Sderot all over again. Those who are calling for an end to the war today without defeating Hamas are not only hardening Hamas's stance and pushing off the release of our hostages, they are also ensuring that the horrors of the October 7th will recur again and again, and that our sons and daughters will need to fight again and again in an endless war. Therefore, both to advance the release of our hostages and to ensure that Gaza will never again constitute a threat to Israel, we must complete the work and defeat Hamas. This is exactly the decision that the Security Cabinet made last week. We are determined to implement it, and I stand by the IDF, the security forces, and the citizens of Israel. Together, we have had great achievements against our enemies on all fronts. Together, we will fight, and with God's help, together, we will complete the victory and end the war.
Netanyahu made these remarks as tens of thousands of Israelis flooded the streets of Israeli towns and cities yesterday, calling on the government to reach an accommodation with Hamas that would bring about an end to the war.
I wish this day will move something, will bring some sort of agreement, and I just want the war to be over. I don't want any more death, any more suffering. I think we had enough.
To put some pressure on everyone to get into an agreement, to get into a hostage agreement, and to get our hostages back. And whatever we can do, we'll do.
It is important to point out that, in contrast to public statements and media reports, the majority of highways were not blocked during the day, including in Tel Aviv's main Ayalon highway, with far less traffic recorded than usual. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. Let us not forget the 50 hostages, to include up to 20 who are believed to be alive, who've now endured 682 days in brutal Hamas captivity in the Gaza Strip. Please pray for the hostages, including their families, and pray also for the peace of Jerusalem and the salvation of Israel. And separately, if you're blessed by our daily programs, since TV7 Israel is exclusively donation-based, any contribution will help us share the truth here from Jerusalem. You can donate via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you a Shavua Mevorach. God willing, we will see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.